Wendy, when did you begin LA for Hire?
I began LA for Hire in 2008, and I was thinking of, at the time, moving back to New York, where I'm from, and I was having drinks with a girlfriend who works in media, and she said, you know what, it's 2008, the banks had all crashed, nobody was hiring, and everyone was cutting back, and she said, you know what, you should do consulting. You're like LA for Hire. You've been in the business for working at studios, Disney, Sony, Universal, you know the players, you know how to navigate. I think you'd be a very valuable resource for people outside of, the business and who are looking for connections and to package projects and so on. And I was like, that sounds good. And I was taking a subway to where I was staying, and by the time I got up out of the subway, I thought, okay, I'm starting a company called LA for Hire Consulting, and I envisioned my logo, and I started brainstorming about the services that I would offer, and that's how I started.
This was a subway in LA?
Oh, in New York.
In New York.
In
oh,
New
okay.
York,
I wasn't
yeah.
sure if you were taking
Right.
the LA Metro.
Yeah.
So, what was your first step in starting it?
My first step was talking to industry colleagues and saying, what do you think of this idea? The notion was for production companies or producers who might be, not with studios and had material, looking to or if you're a screenwriter, how do you get an agent? How do you get to, if you don't know people, how can you get your material seen? For production companies that might be having cutbacks, that they could hire a freelance executive, someone who knows the players, who knows how to understand script development, who is competent when it comes to working with writers and helping implement notes. If there's open writing assignments, contacting the agents, telling them the nature of the project, discussing preparing writers' lists, directors' lists, and so to really be a conduit for companies that might not be based in LA and might not have those relationships.
I think you'd said in another interview that you'll have people come up to you on set when you're working with one client and say, you know what, Wendy, I like what you're doing. I do this, and I don't, I have a script, but I normally am, a grip or something. Can you help me? What are some of the things that people normally have trouble with that aren't used to being sort of in the development part?
Right. Well, I think the first thing is really knowing and understanding what a good script is. A lot of people will write a script and they may go through a couple of drafts, and I think that they don't have a full understanding or appreciation of what it really takes for an executive to decide that they want to recommend it to their boss, for a producer to option material, for a studio to decide to finance it. And a lot of times there are really great ideas with stories, but at the end of the day, is it well executed? There have been times for myself as a producer where I've heard a concept and I say, oh my God, this sounds amazing, I want to option it. Then I read the script and the characters are not particularly well developed. The dialogue might be often people will hear comment among executives, it's on the nose or it's expositional, and it just then requires too much development to get it to a place where it needs to be, that it winds up being a pass. Now, unless it's based on source material, such as a graphic novel, a book, an article, and sometimes you can use that to sell a project without a script. But it used to be, from the time that I started in development about 20 years ago, dating myself, it was easy to sell log lines. There was just much more financing of development. And because of the economic changes, studios are not financing development at all the way they used to.
Is that post 2008 or even before?
Post 2008, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think you said too in an article, yeah, I know you've written a lot of fantastic articles on, is it Script Magazine?
Script Magazines and Writer's Digest.
And Writer's Digest, okay, great. So two excellent sites about how there's different skill sets for above the line versus below the line, and they're both equally important, but can we just define what some of those skill sets are?
Sure. So above the line, which is what I've been involved with, is finding the material. So whether it's optioning a true story, life rights, book, original script, and then getting it ready to start making submissions, identifying who the right buyers are, understanding the market, knowing that Netflix and HBO and Showtime buy certain kinds of projects, whereas NBC, ABC, CBS have different mandates, and same with feature companies like Fox Searchlight is more akin to independent movies, whereas if you look at most of the studios they're doing tentpole movies or franchise films. You look at Disney, where they're primarily doing Star Wars, the Marvel universe, and their own IP or crown jewels, the classic fairy tales. And the above the line is taking the material and identifying the right home, the right buyers, attaching directors, actors, and assembling your crew. The below the line are the nuts and bolts people who make the movie happen, people with the skills. So whether it's your boom operator, editor, cinematographer, and have a completely different skill set, which I mean, when I look at great cinematographers or any cinematographer, I'm amazed at how it really involves engineering and artistry, and it's beyond my comprehension, really, how they do it. So there's, different skill sets.